Hey everyone, and thanks for tuning into today's crochet tutorial. So we'll be making Pietro the baby clown, who is super cute, and I had an absolute blast designing him. So let's start with what you'll need to make today's pattern. So you're gonna need worsted weight yarn in red, yellow, blue, and white, a 4mm crochet hook. You can use a smaller or a bigger hook, but it affects the final project size, so plan accordingly. 9mm safety eyes. I have some blue ones that I'll be using, but any color will work. You'll need red puff balls, black embroidery thread, a stitch marker, stuffing, scissors, a tapestry needle, and a hot glue gun to attach all of the little bits. All right, let's go ahead and get started with our white yarn and a 4mm crochet hook. And we'll begin with a 6 single crochet magic loop. Once you get all 6 single crochet in the magic loop, pull your tail tight to close, and then we'll start in on round 2. So we're going to increase in each of these stitches for round 2. Once you get to the end of round 2, we'll go to round 3. So this one we're going to be doing 1 single crochet. I like to start marking my stitches here, and then increasing in the next stitch. And we'll repeat that all the way around till we reach our stitch marker. All right, next up is round 4. So we're going to be doing 2 single crochet and then an increase for this round. So we'll do single crochet, another single crochet, and then an increase. And we'll repeat that all the way around. Okay, now we're ready for round 5. So for round 5, we'll put 3 single crochet and then an increase. So that's 1, 2, 3 single crochet, and then an increase. And then we'll repeat that all the way around. Okay, once you've completed round 5, we now need to do the height building rows. So that is going to be 6 rounds total of just single crocheting around and around and around and around and around. I like to use a stitch marker to mark my progress. So we'll start in on round 1. So I've just completed my 6th row of single crocheting all the way around, and I'm ready to start my decreases, which is row 12. So we'll start by making 3 single crochet, and then decreasing in the next 2 stitches by single crocheting them together. And we're going to repeat that all the way to the stitch marker. For row 13, we will put 2 single crochet and then decrease. So 2 single crochet and then a decrease. And we repeat that all the way around till we get back to our stitch marker. Now we're on row 14, and that's going to just be 1 single crochet and then a decrease. And we'll repeat that all the way around until we reach the stitch marker. So before we make our last row, row 15, we need to add the safety eyes. So before you start, I always pull up my last increase really long so I don't lose any of my work. And then I make it so my stitch marker is at the back because I find it's easier to get things to line up if you're not working where all the rounds join. So the eyes are going to go between rows 9 and 10, and if you count from the magic loop, which is our first row, you can find it pretty easily. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this row here is where our eyes are going to go through. So grab your first eye, push it through the fabric, and then before we place our second eye, it's about 5 stitches away from this one. So I like to count the holes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So our safety eye is going to go in that 6th hole. Then you can add the snaps to the back and stuff the head. Okay, so I've added the backs to my safety eyes and stuffed the head. So we're ready to finish off the head here with our last row, row 15. So for this one, we're going to just decrease in each of the stitches around. Okay, so once you've decreased in all the stitches, you should have 6 stitches left, and then we're going to slip stitch to the first decrease we made and cut a long tail so that we have something to sew with later. Okay, we've finished the main part of the head. Alright, so the next step is we need to add the puffball to the face for the nose. So I'm going to be using a red puffball from my handy dandy puffball organizer. Here we go. And then to attach, all you need to do is add a little dab of hot glue to the back. And then center the nose between the eyes and press. Next, after the puffball nose, is we need to embroider the mouth. So we're going to go ahead and thread a sewing needle with our black embroidery thread and tie a knot at the end. And then take the end in through the open hole at the bottom of the head and bring it up so that it is just underneath the mouth. And we'll run one long straight stitch just underneath the nose, just to the outside corners of the nose. So when you run this stitch, you're going to send your needle over to the left corner of the mouth and a stitch above it. Now that we've got the bottom part, we're going to add the corners. So we'll make a diagonal stitch on this side, going back through that same hole that the straight stitch went through, and then bringing our needle to the other side to add the other corner. Corner 1. So then when we send our needle through, we need to bring it to this side because we've got to add the lines to the top of the corner. Corner 2. And then we're going to sew a very small straight stitch on the top of the corner of the mouth here and send this to the other side to repeat the same stitch to give him his signature smile. Then when you send this one through, you're going to bring it back through the opening at the bottom of the head. Here's his smile. And since this is going to be attached to the body, we can hide all of our work here. So to finish this off, go ahead and loop your embroidery thread over your work, and then go through one of the stitches and through that loop to tie a secure knot. Then double check you haven't pulled in this corner. I know that sometimes happens to me. Then we're going to send this into the body, or the head, and then snip it short to hide our end. Okay, smile's done. All right, after the smile, we need to add his rosy cheeks. So to do that, we're going to be working with red yarn. We'll make a magic loop with 6 single crochet. Go ahead and pull that tail end tight when you're done. And then we're going to slip stitch to the first single crochet we made in our magic loop to close, and then cut a medium length tail. Pull through to fasten off, and then double check that your magic loop is pulled tightly, and then weave in that tail end into the fabric of the cheek. And then cut both the magic loop tail and the fasten off tail. Okay, that's one cheek created. We'll need one more of these. Okay, I have both cheeks created, so now let's attach them to the head. So we're going to position them so that they are down and slightly outset of the eyes. Now, this of course can be up to you if you want them to be next to the eye or a little lower, kind of however you'd like. And then to attach, we're going to just add a little dab of hot glue to the back. And affix to the face. There's one. And double check the back should have your magic loop tail kind of poking out a little bit. And 2. Okay, cheeks attached. Okay, next up is the hat. So we'll be using yellow yarn and starting off with a magic loop. And we want the hat to be really pointy, so we're going to do magic loop 3 instead of 6. So when you work these first 3 single crochet, work them sort of loosely. I find sometimes if you work them too tight, it's really hard to put the next stitches in. So there's 1, 2, 3, and then pull your magic loop tail to close. And then for row 2, we're going to increase in each of these 3 stitches. So this first stitch is a little difficult. You want to make sure that this doesn't get pulled too loose. So really hold the tension and then increase in the stitch. You also might notice that your work kind of starts to fold in on itself. We want to push this out because that's going to be the point of our hat. So there's 2. There's 4 stitches. And for our last increase, that gets us up to 6. I also find sometimes it's easier to work if you sort of pinch the tip of the hat in your fingers like this. Really up to you. Okay, so our next row, row 3, is going to be 1 single crochet and then increase. And we'll repeat that 2 more times to give us 9 stitches total. All right, for row 4, we're going to do 2 single crochet and then increase. I also like to start marking my rows here. So 2 single crochet and then increase. And we'll do that 3 times total, so 2 more times. All right, for row 5, we'll do 3 single crochet and then increase. We'll do that 3 times total. All right, so here's our last increase row, which is row 6. We'll do 4 single crochet and then increase. All right, for row 7, we're gonna just single crochet around in each of the stitches. All right, so now we need to add the brim to the hat. So we'll do that by slip stitching to the first stitch of row 7, the one that we just finished. And then we're gonna chain 2 and turn our work like that. Let me show that one more time. So as my chain 2, I'm gonna turn the cone so now that I'm looking at it as if it were sitting on the clown's head already. And then we're going to, in the back loop only, make half double crochets all the way around. So this first one here is a part of our chain, so we're going to skip over it and add our first half double crochet in the back loop only. And we'll do that all the way around to make the brim of the clown's hat. Okay, so I've half double crocheted in all of the back loops. I've made it all the way back around. So to finish off, we're going to slip stitch the top of that chain 2 that we made. And then we're going to add a row of slip stitch all the way around the top of the half double crochets that we've just created to really help reinforce the brim to stay up rather than fold out. So make your slip stitches pretty tightly and then try to hold the brim so that it's where you want it to be whenever the hat's attached. So I tend to kind of fold mine with my thumb. Alright, so when you get to the end, you'll slip stitch to your first slip stitch and then cut a longish tail. So you've got just a little bit of sewing to do. Pull through your slip stitch to fasten off, and then grab yourself a tapestry needle so we can do just a bit of sewing. So thread that tail end through, and then we're going to place some long straight stitches directly into the brim just to really help reinforce the brim to stay up. So just sewing front to back, add some straight stitches all the way around. Once you've finished straight stitching the brim, we're going to go ahead and tie a knot. And then you don't even need to weave the end in. You can just stuff it directly inside the hat. Then we'll also add a little bit of stuffing to the inside of the hat. And then we're ready to glue the hat onto the head. So you can attach yours wherever you'd like. If you'd like it to be more in the top, I kind of like this jaunty angle that I set on my Pietro. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the same way on this one. So to attach, you'll take your glue gun, go around where the loop was left behind for our front loop only, or back loop only crochet, so in the front loop, and add a ring of hot glue, and then really carefully attach to the head. Push down really firmly. And if you get a little hot glue on the front, you can kind of pick and pull at it until you've got it set just right. Alright, that is the head complete. Alright, now we're ready to make Pietro's body. So to do that, it's going to be exactly the same as making his head, except we're going to be using blue instead of white yarn. So starting with a magic loop, and then that same increase, decrease pattern that we did for his head. Okay, I've finished crocheting the body and I went ahead and stuffed it. So the only difference between the head and the body is that we need to finish the body off. So to do that, we'll go ahead and thread our tapestry needle and sew into each of the remaining 6 stitches left in the row. Go ahead and pull that tight to cinch, and then we'll tie a knot on the surface of the work and weave our tail end in. Okay, and the body's finished. So we'll need to join the head to the body using the tail end from the head. So go ahead and thread that tail end through your tapestry needle, and then set the head on top of the body where the magic loop is. And then we're going to whip stitch the head on by grabbing a little bit of the blue of the body and then going in through a little of the white of the head. So we're just going to be going back and forth all the way around. Okay, I've made it all the way around Pietro's head and body, and I went ahead and tied a knot, and I'm going to weave in my tail end by just passing it through the body. And then I can cut. And the head is attached. Next up, we're going to make Pietro's bow tie using some red yarn. So to start, we'll tie a slip stitch, slip knot, and then chain 8 stitches. Okay, once you've got your chain, we'll go ahead and turn and put a single crochet in the second loop from the hook, and then continue single crocheting down the chain. Alright, so chain 1 to turn, and you'll do this for all the rows that we do for this bow tie. Turn, and then we've got another 3 rows of single crocheting down these stitches to make the bow tie. Okay, so now that we have added all of the rows of single crochet, we're going to continue working around the outside of the bow tie. So to get started on that, you'll chain 1 and then add another single crochet to the same stitch that you put your last single crochet in. And then we're going to continue working along this edge here, putting 2 single crochet in the same space as 1 stitch. We'll finish it off by adding 1 last single crochet to the first chain on this side, and then chain 1, turn, and add 1 more single crochet to that same chain. Then we're going to continue working down this side here through the chains, adding single crochet. Now that we reached our slip knot, we'll add a single crochet, chain 1, turn, add another single crochet into that slip knot. I like to take my slip knot tail and work it in as I go. So continue adding single crochets all the way up this side. Right, to finish off the bow tie, we're going to chain 1 and then slip stitch in that same space, and then slip stitch to halfway through the bow tie, just like that. Then we're going to cut a long tail, because we'll need this to both sew with and to make the cinch in the bow tie. So pull this tight to close, cut the tail end of your slip knot if you haven't already, and then we're going to thread the tail end from the bow tie through our tapestry needle, and then take that tail end and use it to cinch the bow tie in half. You have to pull kind of tightly. And then we'll keep wrapping around to create that center cinch on our bow tie. Once you've got it wrapped around, maybe 6 or 7 times, flip the bow tie over and then tie a knot the same way we've been tying a knot this whole time, by looping, grabbing some of the fabric of your bow tie and pulling through. And bow tie complete. Next, we need to attach the bow tie to Pietro's body. So to do that, we'll take our tapestry needle that's still threaded, if you've left it threaded like I did, and go around Pietro's neck all the way to the other side of the bow tie. And then we're going to take our tapestry needle and thread it up through the front, just like so. Then kind of position it so that the bow tie is centered on his neck. Pull tight, and then send a straight stitch through the fabric of his body and head to help attach the bow tie. And we're going to send that same tail end through the head and up through the other side of the bow tie. And just like last time, on the side that we just did, we'll sew into the head and the body. To help attach the bow tie. And then you can kind of move the bow tie if you need to. We'll tie a knot. Try to kind of get it right in the neck if you can. And then weave the tail in. All right, bow tie attached. Okay, now that we've got the bow tie attached, we'll want to add the pom-pom, the puffball buttons, and then if you want, you can add one here on his hat too. So with a little bit of hot glue, we're just going to attach them directly to his body. This first one will go right under his bow tie. And then the second one right underneath the first. And then the larger one to the front of his hat. Okay, buttons and hat puffball added. Alright, so next we need to make Pietro's arms. So to do that, we're going to start with white yarn and make a magic loop with 6 single crochet. Once you've got all 6 in the loop, pull the tail tight to close. And then we'll add another 2 rows of single crochet in white for his hands. So on the last single crochet of row 3, we'll need to draw up the blue. So before you finish off the single crochet, cut the white, and then finish the single crochet off with the blue yarn to change colors. So we'll start this round, which is row 4, off with an increase. I like to carry my blue and white behind me for this increase. And then we'll single crochet in each stitch remaining. Okay, so for round 5 through 8, we'll continue working around and around until we get the right length. You'll also want to lightly stuff the arms as you go. So when you get to row 6, probably about halfway through, you'll want to add a little stuffing. Alright, so I've got to the end of my yarn, or my arm. I'll go ahead and add just a little bit more stuffing. And then to close off, I'll slip stitch to the last, or the first stitch of this row, and then cut a long tail to sew with. Okay, that's one arm. We'll need one more. I've got 2 arms now, and they're ready to be attached to Pietro's body. So to attach them, we'll thread the tail ends left over from fastening off. And I'm going to start with his right arm, so over here, or his left arm, so over here on the right. And I'm going to hold my arm so that the knot is sort of, the slip stitch is sort of at the corner. And then I'll sort of flatten the arm as I whip stitch it onto the side of his body, right where his head and his neck meet. So you'll sew through both layers of his arm. So grab a little fabric from the body, go through both layers, then we're going to go under, grab a little more fabric from the body, and keep whip stitching all of the stitches together and closed. You run about 3 stitches, maybe 4, along the side to attach his arm. And then once you've got his arm attached, you notice it kind of lifts up. You might like that, but I would prefer it to kind of stay down and tucked to his side. So if you're like me, take that tail end and weave it through to where his arm and his body sort of touch, like about there. And then we're going to use it to tack his arm down by grabbing a little of the arm fabric and then sewing it to the body underneath where the arm is going to lie. Just like that. And that helps keep his arm down at his side rather than sort of up. So once you've done that, you can tie a knot. And weave the tail in. And cut off any remaining. And then we'll need to repeat that on the other side with the other arm. Okay, I've got both arms attached. Now all that's left are the feet. So to finish Pietro off, we need to make his feet, and we'll need 2 of them. So with white yarn, we'll start with a magic loop with 6 single crochet. Then we're going to do a single crochet in the first stitch and an increase in the next. We'll repeat that 3 times total, so 2 more times. And then for 2 rows, we're just going to single crochet around. Okay, once you've got your 2 rows of single crochet, we'll go ahead and slip stitch to the next single crochet and then cut a long tail and pull through to finish. Okay, make 1 more of these and we'll attach them to Pietro's body. Alright, now we're ready to attach Pietro's feet to his body, especially now that we have 2 of them. So we're going to lightly stuff them first. You don't need a ton of fluff, just a little. And then once they're stuffed, we sort of need to position them on Pietro's body. So I like to do that by setting him flat and then sliding the feet up to where they need to be so he can sit up straight. So you'll want to put them on sort of like this. So I'm going to go ahead and take 1 foot away, and then using a few straight pins, pin his foot to his body so that I can thread the tapestry needle with the yarn tail and then sew his foot on. You'll do that by grabbing fabric from the body kind of underneath where the foot is and then grabbing a loop from the foot and whip stitching around. Alright, my first foot is whip stitched on, so I'm going to tie a knot by making a loop and then weave in the tail into his body. Then I'll cut that tail. And now I just need to attach his other foot. Alright, I've attached Pietro's second foot to his body, which means he's complete. So I hope you liked this tutorial and that you enjoyed making a Pietro just as much as I enjoyed designing him, because he is really rather cute. So thanks for watching!